In this video, we're going to talk about how to get all the non-simmed geometry back merged in with the sim geometry before we export out as an alembic. I discovered that I had forgotten to put the sword belt in this when I first ran this, and so I went back to put it back in, and when I looked at it, and I looked at the high-res geometry, it turns out that there's actually a piece of geometry missing. There's a little metal fastener right here. If we go back up and take a look at our ABC in, you can see here there's a little piece of metal right here. This little orange piece right here, it's a belt fastener. So if you look at the geometry spreadsheet, you can see what it's called. It's called the sword belt fastener 1 and 2. There's one on the back side too. Well, I have to make sure I'm getting all of that geometry. What it pointed out was I didn't create a stack of geometry that's called non-simmed. So what I did is I went through and grabbed all of the blast nodes that we have across the top of our setup here, and I stacked them up and I unchecked those boxes and I went through each one. So if we went through each one of these, it would blast just the geometry that we want to get rid of, like the low res, the undershirt, anything that is simmed has been blasted out of this. Here I'm actually converting everything to prim so that I can cull the eyebrows and the eyelashes, as I don't want them to be part of the hair sim, so I had to split them up here because they don't belong in there. I'm not simming them as part of the hair setup. I didn't want them bouncing around. They just need to be animation. So I'm culling those out. So here is a final compilation of all the non-sim geometry, which includes the eyebrows and eyelashes, all these little bits and pieces of metal, the collision object for the sword. Oh, it's being blasted. I just have this on reference mode, so somewhere in here. Way over here. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so everything's working as according to plan. So I have this stack way over on the left, on the right side here, of everything that I want to keep that is not simulated, including the eyebrows. So here's our final non-sim pieces of geometry. So I'm going to pull from this stack to deform these two with the sword belt. So let's move over here. Back over to the sword belt, which is down here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and merge that in real quick here. So I'm going to merge in the non-simmed geometry. So if I click on here, there should be a non-sim geometry. There we go. High non-sim, except. Here we go. So we've got the high non-sim, and we're going to blast everything that isn't those fasteners. So blast out everything except for those fasteners. So I can select them, but I think it was called sword belt fastener again. Here we'll use the path attribute equals fast. We could just do a partial name and put wildcards on either one. We just got to make sure that the F is uppercase F. There we go. Okay, so now we've merged that in. Here's our high-res geometry. I have to merge that geometry, but I also have to time shift it here back to the beginning. So time shift, just for these little pieces of cube. Okay, Alt E, start, accept. Okay, so now the pieces are in the proper location and they are properly being deformed by the point deformer. So wherever we go, they are being properly deformed. Okay, so I will go ahead and merge that into the pieces of geometry that I want to be part of my alembic. And now I have all of this. So I will also merge this out as to be all of the, not the collision objects, the non-deformed, non-simmed. So I'm going to merge that in down here at the very bottom. And we should have everything that we need now. So I'll just do that real quick with a little quick object merge. Okay, plop that in here. And this will be the non-simmed minus minus the fastener, because I don't need two of them. High non-sim, except, but I'm going to blast the fasteners, because we don't need two of them. Okay. Okay, let's just see what we got here, just to make sure. Okay, that's everything. It looks like we have the renderable body here that doesn't have any kind of shrunken peak put on it. So there's a good opportunity. There's a good chance that some of these body parts might pop through the geometry, or sim geometry. So what we want to do is probably create a body that is shrunken in areas that are hidden under the cloth. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so let's get rid of the body here. So we'll just say @path is equal to wildcard body, anything body, and that should delete that. There we go. That's good. Now let's go back to the body, which we dissected up here in our collision object. So we'll go up here right before we start doing cutting on it, and right here the attribute paint. So in this area, I pre-painted this area called under cloth. I did it off screen here just to save some time, and I went with this here. So, and what we want to do with this is just create a little peak node, P-E-A-K, okay? And the name of this attribute that I've painted is called under cloth. Right here you can see it. So what we want to do is say anything that's got at under cloth is greater than, we'll just call it 0.5. Okay, let's explicitly pick points, otherwise this isn't going to work, and then slowly start dialing it in. Okay, let's actually select the node and visualize it, that way we can see it, and just start shrinking it down. We don't want to go too far, right? We just need it to be not penetrating any of the cloth. And who cares kind of what it looks like, right? Because we're not going to see it through the cloth, hopefully. So we'll just go down here and just want a little bit of room. This will help fix any shape fixing or whatever, so this body isn't poking through. And I really don't care about this rough edge right here. It's not going to be seen, hopefully, so. And it's not part of a simulation or anything. This is just simply for rendering. Now what I want to do is just put a null here, or just call it high body renderable. And now we'll go back down to where we're merging everything in. Okay, drop an object merge here, and we'll just locate the high body renderable, plop it in here, and let's take a look and see what we get. Okay, it's not following the geometry, so we can see here that the body was plugged into the downstream of a time shift. So let's just duplicate the attribute paint and plug it in just above the time shift, and everything's moving. So now we've got everything I think we need to render this character. Okay, let's move on to the video where we point deform the other objects, the objects that need to be deformed with the piece attribute.